in a completely paralyzed people, the ethical implications are dramatic, because communication system which allows paralyzed people, and in the future we hope also people with severe neurodegenerative disease such as Alzheimer, to get on a rudimentary form of communication. These devices, of course, will put a strong pressure on the society to keep these people alive. And the high quality of life which people achieve through these systems, of course, will press in one way for a longer life, satisfying life. And it's, of course, the tendency today is not to do this, because we have this overaging of the population. We cannot pay for our sick population. So overall, the tendency is to shorten lifespan in those severely diseased people because of the costs they are involved. And so difficult ethical decisions arise for us. For example, a new law was declared, voted in this year, for writing your last will. And everybody writes now his last will. What you want that medically will be done with you in case of a severe disease. And it's always the same thing which is written. I don't want to go on intensive care. I don't want that my life is artificially kept intact. I don't want to go on artificial respiration. I don't want this, I don't want this, and I don't want that. All these declarations are written long, long before these people are in that state. Mainly they are young. They have no idea what that state will be, how terrible it will be, whether they want to live or not, and so forth and so forth. So what I do with these things, with my patients, I take them and throw them in the basket. That I do this because I know from these patients, first of all, I know that their anticipation of their quality of life was wrong. If I ask them about this, they say, yeah, throw it away. I'm sorry, I did it wrong. But most people don't throw it away because they're afraid from the lawyer. So then these people have to be killed. And they have to be killed because we are not using life-sustaining measures. And then we have two choices. We let them suffocate, or we give them drugs to let them die. Both is killing. And all these questions arise in a population which already has decided, in fact 95%, not to want to live. And they have no idea what living after the respiration is. So then, of course, you come into many difficult ethical issues here. Is it my obligation to persuade a patient to live like a priest? I'm not a priest. While my obligation as a scientist is to explain the truth to this patient, which I do. I tell them quality of life is great. So in my opinion, you should keep alive. Now, the doctor said, no, it's awful. The family said, oh, terrible. How can you live in such a state? And so forth and so forth. And that causes many conflicts with insurance companies, causes conflicts with politicians, causes conflict with religious organizations. So I find solidarity in groups which I, for political and other reasons, usually don't even touch. Because of that difficult situation, ethical situation we are having in the application of brain-computer interfaces in this severely diseased population. And that's something the students should at least think about carefully. Not that I would like them to have an opinion. Opinions are very bad for this here, strong opinions. But to respect the scientific data and then base his ethical judgment more on science than on anything else, because usually, not always, but usually science tells us what to do in that direction. And this science is so simple. Just ask people, do you want to live? Do you think you're okay? Or do you think life quality is high enough for you? Just ask that question repetitively. And then you can forget most of these signed wills and all that crap. And the question for euthanasia is not even arising. And I don't want to kill my patients. And of course, if they ask me for it, I would do it. And I'm allowed to do it in that case. Together with a doctor, I can do this. But I don't want to come into the role of a mass killer through these stupid laws which politicians who are all afraid of dying formulate at a time when they have no idea about how dying is or how living is with a disease. So that is a difficult issue, ethical issue, which of course you cannot solve, but you can discuss it. The other situation is different. When I have a cancer patient who says, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this, I prefer to die quietly now in that moment. I think euthanasia is an absolutely acceptable way. If a person, is conscious, not depressed, not under pain, and then decides this is not worth for me, and this and this is coming along, and he makes this conscious decision in that situation, then I have not the slightest moral problem here in killing these patients. So, but this is a very small segment of the population. And even in cancer, we have very few people who ask us to help them dying, strangely enough. You would think there must be a lot, but there aren't. So there are many different reasons for this, but cancer is a very good example because in cancer you have a long preparation time, like our ALS patients. You are much better off than the ALS patients if you have no pain, because you can move, you can talk, da-da-da-da-da. And quality of life in cancer patients is much less. It's worse than in our patients. So which shows you that the severity of the disease is not always a good measure. But of course there are situations where you say, of course, euthanasia is a human and positive way of doing it. No question.